hurricane speeds averaging over 70 miles per hour, causing water to shoot in every direction. The reason? As water plummets over the falls, it takes air with it. The air gets compressed and then explodes, sending gusts of wind filled with mist flying everywhere. Those who brave the powerful gusts are rewarded with an amazing view. And from this vantage point, you can almost touch the falls, literally. Spectators are situated just 20 feet away on the wooden platform. Sound slippery? Well, before visitors are allowed on the deck, they are given special footwear and raincoats. And here's something you should know. The Cave of the Winds experience changes all the time. In fact, every year the attraction needs to be rebuilt thanks to the harshness of the seasons. Here's what happens. In the winter, the extreme temperatures cause everything to freeze, and sometimes that even includes the falls. But when winter melts into spring, chunks of ice fall off and take pieces of the ground with them. By the time it's actually warm enough to visit the Cave of the Winds, the landscape has changed, and so the shape of the platform must be rebuilt to fit in. So if you plan to take in Bridal Veil Falls from the Cave of the Winds, keep in mind, from year to year you'll get a different view. And remember, it's only open from May through October. But the falls aren't the only show in town. 1 mile downriver from the Niagara Gorge is one of nature's most terrifying creations, the Niagara Whirlpool.
The water enters the whirlpool, it swings around in a counterclockwise direction, which is rather unusual. Then it goes under the incoming current from the Whirlpool Rapids channel and then on down the far channel of the river.
As it tumbles toward the far channel, the pressure forces a stream of water under itself, creating ferocious currents as fast as 12 feet per second. It's a tricky stretch of river, but there's a sure way you're guaranteed to get a good look.
G'day folks, and welcome to the Whirlpool Aero Car.
The Whirlpool Aero Car is this gondola here. It's a reversible ropeway. It's one of a kind in the world, and it's an awesome view.
Since 1916, the Aero Car has been a fixture in Niagara Falls, Canada, and it was created out of an international effort.
It was privately owned by a group of Spanish businessmen and had been constructed by a very brilliant Spanish engineer. The idea was to provide people with a bird's eye view of the whirlpool.
And that bird's eye view is 250 feet above the swirling waters. As the Aero Car crosses over, down below turmoil surges, boiling up from a depth of 126 feet. Simple translation, you don't want to go swimming down there.
Definitely did not want to be in that water.
Over the course of the years, the Aero Car has basically been the same. They have upgraded it to meet industry standards, but basically the charm is the same.
The Aero Car is the very picture of simplicity. There are no seats, everybody stands, up to 35 can fit. It's only a 10-minute ride, but the appeal is timeless.
The Aero Car was relaxing, it was enjoyable. It was picturesque.
It was very nice, very slow and very calming in there. And you get a great view of stuff that, you get to watch all the whirlpools down there.
Along with the great views, you also get some history. At the turn of the century, when the Aero Car was first operating, con artists would tell people that the Aero Car could get them across the Canadian border onto American soil.
They would get you on the cable car on this side then, at what is called Colts Point, and you were told that as soon as the cable car reached the other side, jump off and run. And this they did, thinking they were in the United States. In fact, they were still in Canada.
But if you really want to experience the heart-pounding, white-knuckle power of the whirlpool firsthand, you may want to stay on the Canadian side for another experience, the Niagara Whirlpool Jet Boat.
First off, we welcome you guys to Whirlpool Jet Boat Tours. My name is Charles. You can call me Chuck, Charlie, Charlitos, or even sometimes people call me Handsome.
Just getting ready for this trip requires courage, as well as warm clothes to ward off the raging waters.
So first off is one of these Old Navy black Army sweaters. One size fits no one, okay? This thing is gonna keep the wind off you. The third thing we're gonna give you is one of this industrial strength made of the mist ponchos, okay?
At this point, guests get a good idea of what might be in store for them.
If you guys want to get totally drenched, totally wet, soaked to the bone, sit anywhere on the boat, all right? But if you want a little bit more adrenaline rush, sit in the first 3 rows we like to call the power rows, okay? Make sure you guys get your ponchos, your booties, and your life jackets.
But no matter what they give you or where you sit, count on one thing. This is going to be an 18-mile, hour-long, edge-of-your-seat thrill ride. The speedboat churns its way through stretches that make your hair stand on end, like the Devil's Hole Rapids of the lower Niagara River, known locally as Thunder Alley. The whitewater here is rated a Class 5, just about as difficult as it gets. And to navigate these powerful currents, it takes some state-of-the-art technology.
Well, what you're looking at here, this is about $500,000 worth of boats. You know, these boats, they do about 50 to 60 miles per hour, which a lot of boats will do that, but not many boats that will hold 54 people and climb through big rapids can do that sort of speed.
The jet boat can execute a 360-degree turn at top speed. It's called a Hamilton turn, named after the boat's engine.
It's really strong. I was amazed. I didn't expect to go so fast. There were some times that you just speed it up. We just spins and circles 360 degrees. You like rolling from side to side. It was just the best.
These boats are so powerful that they are the only type certified by the Coast Guard to enter these treacherous waters. And sometimes they do a lot more than offer up a rare view of the rapids for travelers looking for a thrill.
Here on the Niagara, there's quite a bit of fishermen, hikers, other people that are experiencing the gorge that do find themselves in trouble. Prior to us starting operations here 12 years ago, the authorities really didn't have any good way to get into the gorge quickly. So we are summoned quite often to assist.
But fortunately, the majority of the time, the ride is all just for fun.
We had like water splashing in our face. We couldn't breathe. It was really cool.
Couldn't see. It was like a sheet of water in front of you. It was like a blast.
I recommend it to every single person who's walking on this earth.
When the water crashes on you and you feel like you're about to die, it's insane. It's crazy fun.
This is the best thing we've done in Niagara Falls. Woo!
Way to go, you did it! You made it to the whirlpool!
For millions of visitors every year, Niagara Falls is an escape from the daily grind. But in the early days of America's history, it was a literal escape.
The Niagara River was a very, very important route into Canada and freedom for American slaves in the 19th century. In the wintertime, some of them even ventured on the ice on Lake Erie to cross into Canada, and sometimes the ice broke and they died.
The route north was one of the ending points of the Underground Railroad.
It was, in many cases, an unsophisticated network of fugitive slaves or enslaved people coming up from the south, heading toward the north, and ultimately into Canada.
The Underground Railroad was busiest between 1830 and 1863. During that time, thousands made it to safety in Canada, but thousands more were killed or captured.
For every fugitive that we know made it across, it's fair to say that there's probably 10 that didn't make it.
It was here in Niagara Falls that Harriet Tubman, an escaped slave herself, returned to the U.S. at least 19 times to help others. During the period between 1850 and 1860, she led an estimated 300 people to freedom, many across the Whirlpool Bridge. Today, the harsh reality of the Underground Railroad is regularly revived in tours given by a group called Motherland Connections.
If you would just take a look in there, you can see it just the way it originally looked.
To use tourism to educate the public on the history of the Underground Railroad.
They often start at the Michigan Street Baptist Church in Buffalo.
Churches were key. If you were a former slave and you came into the city of Buffalo, again, you were going to look for the black community, and the black community was always centered around a church because that was everything.
Now, the Michigan Street Baptist Church was one of the first churches in America built by and for blacks. It's one of the first churches which is not a hand-me-down church. The rafters, the beams, the masonry work, all of that were done by the native blacks who lived here.
They also built a hiding place where escaped slaves could wait for the right moment to seize their freedom. Bounty hunters looking to take escaped slaves back to their owners were a constant threat.
So the slave catcher would come into the door. Now the congregation would be singing, and sometimes these songs would serve as messages. You start singing nice and low, somebody in the building.
There's a back stairwell here in the sanctuary, and you can just literally come up the back stairs and out the front door, and if you made a left out this door and ran down the road, you would be on the Erie Canal looking at Canada in a matter of maybe 10 minutes.
Keep going.
Canada and freedom were just minutes away.
Listen, ladies, this is the last leg of the way. We're closer to the border. Freedom is right across there. But you got to listen. The bounty hunter can be anywhere right now. So steer yourself, chillin'. We on our way to freedom, and we ain't turning back. Let's go.
Crossing Niagara's Whirlpool Bridge was the most dangerous part of the journey. Bounty hunters knew it was the place to capture escaped slaves, and the bridge during that time was a swaying suspension bridge that lacked railings. It was here that many a slave's resolve might waver. So when Harriet Tubman led the crossing, she allegedly carried a gun. It wasn't for protection against bounty hunters.
Harriet carried it for fugitives who were scared. And so if you were with her party and you decided you didn't want to go on anymore and you were too scared and you were going to go back to Master, old Master was going to beat it out of you. Where the route was, how many people were with her, Harriet would then threaten to kill that person as opposed to losing the 9 or 10 people that was with her.
Get right, church, and let's go home. Get right, church, and let's go home.
The bridge is probably the most inspirational point on the tour, because we've had people who are very scared of heights, and we tell them, you know, if you're going to get this far and you're going to be scared of heights, are you going to go back into slavery, or are you going to crawl across that bridge and make it to freedom? And they all go across that bridge to make it to freedom.
Don't stop. Don't look down. If you're afraid, keep your head up. Don't you look down, Mary. Come on. Step on over in the freedom. Thank you, Jesus. Freedom. Freedom. Yeah. Freedom, we here. We made it. Thank God I'm free.
It's the most spiritual thing that's ever happened to me, other than giving birth to my children, I think. Because you are literally retracing the footsteps.
I just can't imagine the terror they went through, knowing that the bridge was shaking and that they might not make it.
Yes, indeed. I cannot imagine. You know, so it was wonderful, you know, to see the reenactment of it all and then to be a part of it. I'll take that forever with me.
We ain't got to answer to nobody no more, but to ourselves and to the Almighty. And we can make a life for ourselves over here in Canaan land.
For escaped slaves, the sight of Niagara Falls was their first glimpse of freedom, a bright beacon of their new chance at life. The falls dazzled then as they do now, but they are a little brighter at night, courtesy of a man-made light show that's been going on more than 3/4 of a century.
The illumination of the falls began here on a regular basis back in 1925. There was an interruption during the early years of the Second World War to conserve electricity, but in 1944 they were turned on again and have been on ever since.
There are 21 of the xenon fixtures, and they each provide 4,000 watts of light.
There's 11 pointing at the